This is the North Georgia Life Podcast. Embrace life where you live. Welcome to the North Georgia Life Podcast. This is Jake, and I've got a fantastic episode for you. Most of us, when we think of the town Helen, Georgia, we don't necessarily think world famous or award-winning for the entire world. But I'm telling you, we have a treasure in Helen, Georgia. It is Unicoi Outfitters. I'm on the podcast today with Jake Darling, who is the store manager of Unicoi. And I had gotten in touch with this company probably about a decade ago, doing some stuff for a past employer, and just completely top-notch, like world-class people. They are some of the best people you'll ever meet that run this organization. And in 2018, just last year, they won the Orvis Fly Shop of the Year for the entire world. Yes, I did not misread that somewhere. The entire world in Helen, Georgia is number one in 2018. So for those of you who have people who are outdoors people or just want to experience something new, this is something that you can get a gift certificate to. You can do a family, a mother-daughter, father-son, whatever outing with, and just create a really, really awesome memory and experience. You don't have to have any experience at all whatsoever. My first or second fly fishing experience was actually with these guys, and I'm going to tell you, they make it easy. They do all the work for you, and you're going to have a fantastic time and experience with them, and it is worth every penny. They are a top-notch operation, and you will not be disappointed in getting in touch with them. So as a means of introduction, get ready for the world-famous Unicoi Outfitters. Welcome to the North Georgia Life Podcast. My name is Jake, and I am a little excited today and also very sad because we are going to be talking about something that I enjoy and actually not doing it. So, but we are here in Helen, Georgia at Unicoi Outfitters. If you have ever been to Helen, been through Helen, or been sitting in traffic trying to get through or into Helen, you have passed by this location. This is a local fly fishing outfit, and I have had the pleasure, this is actually how I first got connected with the sport of fly fishing, was through this very location. So we're going to share with you a little bit of the story behind the property and the business. My guest here is Jake Darling. Jake, you are the store manager, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Of this property. Give us a little bit of a history lesson on you first, of who set the line, who set the hook in you at an early age to get you into wanting to do this as a profession.
Okay, so I have a pretty long story, but it's pretty unique. I'm 30 now. I'll be 31 here pretty soon. But I first started fly fishing when I was 5.
5?
Yes, and my dad was a very, very big fly fisherman. And him.
So he took the bottle out and gave you the fly rod.
That's right. That's right. I remember when I was a kid, Christmas was coming. And, then the internet wasn't really popular, so he had his Orvis catalog, and he's thumbing through the catalog, and it was going to be the first really nice fly rod that he'd ever bought for himself, and he was going to buy it as a Christmas gift. And so he literally looked at it like every night for just months and months before he finally pulled the trigger. And, my dad passed away about 16 years ago, and but I still have the rod. So, but pretty cool. It was, I was very fortunate in the fact that I grew up here with, all these guys here were mentors to me along the way. And so the road was pretty much was paved for me if I chose to do it. And so, that's where I've been in the industry now for about 10 years.
Okay.
And, love it every day. They always say if you enjoy what you do, you never go to work.
That's
and
right.
Being in the fishing industry is a lot of fun.
That's right. I used to joke with Jimmy, who we'll talk about in a second. Who is Jimmy the only owner? Is the sole owner? Or is he partner?
His partner.
Okay. So when I first met Jimmy, I joked with him. He was telling me a little bit about the property and the business and what he did and where he was going. And I looked at him, and I still remember this. I'm like, so you basically have the best job in the universe.
Yeah.
I know it's a lot of work, but it is a very neat industry, and something that North Georgia is just a hotbed of, locations and activity, and everybody talks about going out west to fly fish, and I've had the opportunity to go once, but we have really good fly fishing right here in North Georgia.
The great thing about it, Jake, is that there's variety.
Yep.
And, trout is probably most well-known.
Mm-hmm.
There's 150 trout streams in the state of Georgia, but there's also a lot of other cool species to catch as
Mm-hmm.
well, and that's really gaining a lot of traction, because where we live in the summer months, it can become too warm for trout, and so having these warm water opportunities allows us to get our fix the hot months of the year when the trout fishing is not as good.
And the good thing is usually those warm water fish are a lot bigger than some of the trout that you'll catch.
Yeah, we've got stripers and impoundments with stripers,
Mm-hmm.
but it's whatever you want to do. You
Mm-hmm.
can trout fish, you can river bass fish. Some guys even go and catch long-nosed gar on fly rod.
Oh
so like tons carp. Is great warm water fishing.
Yeah, I
so
bet they're
tons
fun.
of stuff
Yeah.
to go and catch.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So you started fly fishing at 5.
Mm-hmm.
Did you do tournaments, or was this just kind of a hobby you do on the weekends? What was your level of involvement, kind of through your grade school years with the sport? And then at what point did you start thinking, well, I could make some money doing this, and start actually working, at an outfit like this?
Mm-hmm. So my dad lived to fish, and growing up, like, we weren't poor, but we weren't rich. And my parents split up when I was young. My dad worked down at the local auto parts store. He would have loved to have been in the fishing industry, never had the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But he always made sure to work and work hard, and he would save all of his money up and buy all the fishing equipment that I needed and take me fishing every weekend. But there was a lot of days that he would pick me up from school as car rider, and we would go hit the lake and things like that. So kudos to my mom for always letting me go every weekend. I literally grew up fishing. Half of my life was spent on a stream somewhere. I was playing soccer pretty competitively too as well. When I got out of high school, I got a scholarship to play soccer at Emmanuel College just outside of Athens.
Okay.
Went and played for a year, and then it was a lot more like a job than a sport. And one day I woke up, I'd kind of back up just a hair. My dad passed away when I was 14, and so for a 2-year time span there, I didn't touch a fly rod. I just kind of didn't really want to be around it. And a guy that worked here at the time that we used to go camping with all the time called me up, and he said, "Hey, let's go camping. We'll go fishing." I was 16 at the time, just got my driver's license, and I was like, "Yeah, sure." I hadn't been fishing in about 2 years, so we went camping all weekend, fished, kind of relit the fire. A couple years goes by, I go to college, I'm playing soccer. One day I wake up, and I was like, I enjoy this, but I think I'm going to move home and still continue to go to school. But, I'd always loved to fish, and I'd always wanted to be around fishing. And, even when I was in school, I was always doodling on the paper, drawing fishing stuff, or, not paying attention to what the teacher was saying.
Drawing good loops, thinking
exactly.
that's how it'll work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I always wanted to be around it.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to come home, and I'm going to go to school a couple days a week at night, and then that'll give me an opportunity to be around it as much as possible.
Yeah.
And so got into it as a guide early on. A couple years go by, got an opportunity to move to the retail side as well. So I was guiding in retail, did that as assistant manager for a few years, and then got the opportunity to move to manager. So now, like, on a daily basis, what's great about it is I never do the same thing every day. So, I could be here one day, I could be out fishing, I could be, I handle all the purchasing, I travel some. So, it's cool because it's always something different. But I'm always, every day of the week, 7 days a week, I'm around fishing in some aspect. So, really, really cool. Great opportunity. Very thankful for everybody here that mentored me along the way, the guides, the owners, everybody. And also my dad for always keeping me involved in the sport.
Your name's Jake Darling.
Mm-hmm.
Did you figure when you kind of came to when you were young that your parents pretty much pigeonholed you either for fishing or NASCAR? Like that's a good outdoor sports name, or maybe baseball.
Yeah.
you have much better name potential than my name. So, of course, neither of us gets royalty from State Farm, but that's another story. Give us a little bit of the short history on the Outfitters, Unicoi Outfitters, when it started, some of the progression. I know we're kind of a booming area in North Georgia, just as far as the amount of I don't call it Hollywood traffic, but ever had any celebrity or quasi-celebrity people that have come through guiding?
Yeah, so celebrity, like Lauren Smith from the Georgia Bulldogs.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, Phil Negro. So we get a few. Kind of the history of the company, it's always been in the Helen area. First started just north of town, up on the Chattahoochee, north of Robertstown in 1994. I remember when I was a kid, we would go in there. That was like the ultimate toy store, on the weekends. Kind of cool story of how it started. It was started by David Dockery and Bruce Humphreys. And David's still a partner in the business. Bruce has since moved on. He got relocated on another job. But kind of when they went into it, their whole mentality of how they did their purchasing was, okay, if this was to not work out, what kind of fishing tackle would we be okay taking home with us? So
that's brilliant.
So everybody hears.
That's kind of like when you're at a restaurant and you're ordering desserts for people that aren't there yet. Like, if they don't like it, which ones would I want to take home?
Exactly. So fast forward like 1998. Store comes down to the south end of town. So we were down same building here as the Jumping Goat Coffee store, right next to Norm Mills.
Yep.
That's when we gained the lease agreement on the Chattahoochee River, which is the Nakoochee Bend stretch that we have today. And then in 2000, we moved up the street a couple hundred yards, and now we're in this building here. So I've been here for 19 years, and next month we have our 25th anniversary event here at the store.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Cool. So when is that? Just while we're on that.
Yeah, September 7th.
September 7th.
Yeah, it'd be 10 to 3, but it's kind of our, it's our 25-year reunion, but it's also our big fall kickoff event too for the season as well. So there'll be a lot of vendors here. Yeah.
Cool.
So really good time. We'll have some raffles and things like that.
Awesome.
But yeah, it'll be great.
That's exciting.
I'm excited about it.
You've been around the industry and the sport forever. Did you give any thought to, I want to move into this as my profession, or was it just like, well, I don't know what else I would do? I mean, was this something you were going for, or just kind of progressively happened?
I would say progressively. I could tell you that my first job ever was doing masonry work, laying brick and block, and I knew early on I didn't want to do that.
Did not want to be a mason.
No. So, I was, I loved to fish, so I started out guiding, and then I was, fishing through other people and sharing, my passion of the sport with them. And, then I went to school to study business, and it kind of all fell into place there. I moved into the retail side, so I began to understand a little bit more about that, and then it just kind of kept going progressively until where I am today. Yeah. And so now, I could never see myself doing anything else. I have such a, people go to work every day doing something that they don't want to do. And, to have that opportunity to do that every day is awesome. And so I never see myself in an office job in a big building or anything like that. So I want to be outside.
Yeah. Bad days when you get your line hung up on a leaf.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
In a tree. So for those who are not familiar with the world of fishing, and specifically trout fishing, seem to call the trophy fish hogs or pigs or things like that. Why are they called pigs and not cows? Or
I mean, we hear them called all kinds of things when they're on the end of somebody's line and they're jumping all over the place. But
more syllables than pig.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. I think it's one of those things that just kind of stuck along the way.
Have you gotten to travel? Certain you've probably been out west. What are some of the places that you've been to and you can't wait to go back?
I haven't traveled as much as most anglers. I love my home water here and the diversity of it. But I have been out west, a little bit up the East Coast. Probably as of right now, my favorite trip that I would love to go back. A couple of years ago, I got to go to Michigan and we did the hex hatch at night for big brown trout. And the hex is a yellow mayfly. They burrow in the mud, mostly in slower stretches of rivers or lakes. And what happens is in the summer months, the sun will heat the mud up, and then it cools down at night, and that triggers them to hatch. So it's like a 2-week deal that these bugs are hatching at night. And of course, like you'll see them around here. Our hexes, on a hook size, would be like a size 10 or 8, which maybe like an inch and a quarter long bug. When we got here and started floating at night, you could literally see the hexes in the sky. They look like small birds.
Wow.
And they were literally 3 to 4 inches long.
Oh my gosh.
And these big brown trout are
like aliens
in these log jams. And so
oh
it's really cool. You're slipping down these rivers in complete darkness, real
like
quiet,
like a Navy SEAL.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No noise. It's pitch black. You're floating by people on their back porch, and they don't even know that you're there, and you're just listening for these big trout to come up and start rising, and then you set up on them and fish to them, and it is really something else. So I'd love to go back and do that. I've said for 2 years now I was going back, but I hadn't made it back yet.
Any international travel that you've done or would like to go to? I know some of your coworkers here have been internationally fly fishing. Is there a hot spot you'd love to go to?
I've been to San Pedro, Belize.
Okay.
We'll call it a honeymoon when I got married, but we did some fishing while we were there. In about a month, I'll be going to Brazil to fish for peacock bass in a tributary of the Amazon River. Really excited about that. I don't really know what's next. Would like to try to go maybe golden dorado fishing, a little further, kind of south there in South America. So I don't really know. There's all kinds of really cool and unique fisheries. Yeah. Right now everything is planning to go to Brazil, and then after that we'll look for something else. So
this may be a weird question. What's the most beautiful fish that you've caught? Because there's depending on where you are in the country, a rainbow trout here is not the same as a rainbow trout in Montana or Wyoming. Any one fish just amazing when you reeled it in?
I love them all, but probably some of the cutthroats out west. Like we're very fortunate here. We have a species of red-eye bass that exists in the Chattahoochee River that it's a subspecies of a red-eye bass. It's called a Chattahoochee bass. And it's one of those warm water fish, but the way you can distinguish the difference of them is they have very, very vibrant orange tip fins. I mean, when you hook them, you can literally see if the water's clear, 15 feet away, you can tell that's a Chattahoochee bass. Wow. And they don't get very big at all. But probably, really, in all honesty, like if you could paint a picture of a fish, that would be one of the prettier fish. So really, really cool. Unique story and very limited range, so it can't be done anywhere in the world.
Yeah. Speaking of, do you have people that come here internationally to fish?
Yeah, we do have a lot from all over the U.S. and then some international travel as well.
Aside from not being in an office, what would you say the best part of your day to day is?
Oh, going fishing.
Just going fishing.
Going fishing.
Do you go fishing before you come into work?
Certain times of the year I do. Yeah, I do.
You ever been late to work because you were fishing?
Oh yeah, plenty of times. Like having grown up here, I first started out fishing for trout mostly. Then I kind of started dabbling in the warm water stuff, and we've got annual runs of stripers that come up the river on a spawning run. So, when that's happening, that's what I'm doing. Yeah. And so, I
know, I don't know that I know anybody that's caught a striper on a fly rod, but I know several people that have caught them up, not this far up, but in Lumpkin County. And I mean, they're the size of a fifth grade kid. I mean, they're giant. Yeah, like ginormous.
Yeah, they are all the way down. This year, they made it all the way down to Norm Mills Dam, right down here.
Oh wow!
And if you have high water, so this year when it was raining in the spring and everybody was complaining, it's not good for the trout fishing right then per se, but in a couple months that gives the stripers more river to come up, more water, and so you get bigger fish.
And I've heard different stories, so I'll ask you, the striper are coming up for what?
They're coming to spawn. However, it is an unsuccessful spawn in this river. They don't know that.
Yeah.
So they're going to
just let them enjoy themselves.
Exactly. Yeah, they don't know any different. And so, but for a striper egg to hatch, it has to roll 48 to 72 hours in a free-flowing current environment, and it can never settle to the bottom. And so here that does not happen, but they don't know that. So.
Oh, well. It was fun while it lasted, I guess. You have just a unique story in your childhood passion becoming your adult profession. What would you say to somebody that either younger in life or, at that point of wanting to transition careers or whatever, as far as following your passion? And I've couched this different ways to different people that we talk to, but basically the marriage of employing some wisdom in what you're doing and not neglecting the thing that actually gets you excited about getting out of bed. How have you kind of managed that? What would you share with somebody who's at a point in life, whether it's starting out in life or wanting to transition?
So I would say big thing is be committed to it, 110%. Especially in the fishing industry, a lot of people, at first it's hard to get your name out there. But, a lot of people think that because we're in the fishing industry, we just get to play all the time, and that's not the case. There's still work to be done. But, to kind of, like I see that a lot, people that have worked corporate jobs and things like that and just, do it for a while and then decide later on they want to get in the fishing industry. And if you have the emotional attachment to it, you're going to have the drive to get up out of bed and dedicate 110% to it every day.
Yeah.
And that's what it takes, and it doesn't come easy. It takes time to develop you.
Yeah.
But you got to be ready to grind, and a lot of guys cut their teeth, a lot of people cut their teeth guiding. And guiding is tough because there's a lot of travel, there's a lot of long days, and there's a lot of stuff on the back end from making lunches to preparing the tackle and it's all about service.
Yeah.
And you're preparing lunches, you're calling the customers, you're advertising your business, you're tying the flies, you're up at 5, you're off to work, you're back in at 4, you're doing it all over again for the next day. Yeah. So it's tough. Yeah. But if you've got the emotional attachment to it, then you're willing, generally speaking, willing to put the work in.
Yeah, I think that's a good framework for anybody that's wanting to make that sort of transition. Is see where the emotion is 6 months down the road after going through some of the day-to-day, and there's lots of opportunities for places that you can get involved in serving, volunteering, that are in the realm of what you want to do, or what you think you might want to do. And from a fishing standpoint, obviously you got to have some hours with a rod in your hand to think about being able to guide. I think that's good counsel of don't go 2 feet off the high dive without having really figured out if you can swim a lap or two.
Yeah, you want to dip your toes.
When you kind of think back some great times, great moments, memories that you've had over the course of your fishing life, and specifically here at Unicoi, anything jump out at you that is just kind of like a hallmark moment for you?
Totally. I mean, there's been memories every day. I would say a couple from like my personal life would be, as far as the fishing aspect goes, the first trout I ever caught.
You still remember that?
Oh, yeah. Yes. I could tell you, it was on the Tallulah River. My dad was on a fishing trip up north. My mom took me fishing because I was pestering her. I had an Eagle Claw fly rod with a Martin reel. And at the time, up until that point, I'd only done brim fishing and stuff on local ponds and whatnot. So I didn't know anything about trout fishing. And my first trout, I caught it on a white brim popper. And when it ate the fly, I set the hook on the fish. I was on a sandbar. I threw the rod down on the sandbar because I didn't know how to bring it in. I run out to the tip of the rod, and I grab it and start hand lining it in. And so then I was probably 6 or 7 at the time. So then I put it. I was so proud of it. I had to take it home.
I was saying, you brought it in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And so I
Hand
had to
over
put it on
hand.
a stringer, and I drug it up and down the road at the creek and at home. I was so proud. It was like I was walking the dog. Drug it so much that I wore the skin completely off the fish. And
Oh my
having
gosh.
said that, as far as
That poor fish.
yes, yes, I remember it very, very well. From a business standpoint, I would say probably one of the best moments would have been when we won the 2018 Orvis Fly Shop of the Year award, and that is worldwide. And
Wow.
so to be here
Yeah.
in Northeast
Little
Georgia,
old Helen.
Little Helen, and to win an award like that, that's very,
Wow.
it lets you know you're doing things right. So
Yeah, that's amazing.
I'm very satisfied with.
I was thinking your comment earlier about just giving 100%, 110% at your endeavors in life. As we talked about, my day to day is in real estate, and it's very similar in that there's I think the statistic is like 70 or 80% of people that get their real estate license are out of real estate within 18 to 24 months, and it's because everybody thinks that when you get into real estate that you just sign your name on a couple papers, you show a couple houses, and you get a big check in a few weeks. And that is really not how it works.
Yeah.
It's that mindset of, if this is going to be what you're doing, this needs to be what you're doing. And whether it's sunny, rainy, cold, windy, you're doing it. And sometimes, when it's good, you'd like to be doing it a little less to have a little more margin. But, I think it's very similar in that it takes a while to get your name out. You need to stay in it long enough so then, 2 years down the road when somebody needs a creative gift for, their brother or their dad or their mother-in-law or whatever, it's like, oh, I remember, so-and-so is a fishing guide, and they call you up. Well, honestly, I know people that have gotten that phone call 2, 3, 4 years later after they had gotten out of real estate, and now they're calling me on a referral when they could have just stayed in it longer. For me, it's very similar in that, I love getting the opportunity to help people find their forever home or find their first home. What's one of your favorite places in our North Georgia area that's people may or may not know, but it's just one of your favorite places to go?
Ooh. I tend, if I'm going somewhere, I usually go where the fish are. But
I tell no one. I find my iPhone off.
Yeah, we don't show all of our cards.
Yeah.
But I have my first child at home. I have a 9-month-old little girl, and so I'm having a lot of fun with that. So now it's, as I get a little older, everything's not about fishing. There's more to it than that. And so we've kind of made a pact in our house that Sundays are family days. And she's getting to where she's got a little personality to her, so we try to go do something. Lately we've been doing a lot of waterfall hiking trails around the area, which there's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy that. I'm used to going in and walking up a creek and going fishing, but to take her to somewhere like that and her see the big waterfall and get her outside and kind of she's young, she doesn't know really, she doesn't appreciate it by any means, but to start her kind of young and in the outdoors and being outside and actually it's like in the evenings during what we call the witching hour.
Yes, all parents know the witching hour.
So we actually take her outside and walk around the neighborhood, and like she'll be completely cool. So she loves to be outside. So typically we're going to the park or we're doing a waterfall hiking trail or something like that.
So I like to go off topic, and what I'm calling our lightning round has nothing to do with anything, but just a fun question. I should have asked you: have you seen Lord of the Rings and the Harry Potter movies?
It's been a long time, but it was not by choice.
Okay, well this may or may not be a good question for you, but I can help you along with it. So fly rod has many names. I've heard somebody years ago referred to it as their sword, so I was like, I'll just find a sword question. So which is the more iconic cinematic sword scene? Harry Potter, Deathly Hallows 2, where Neville Longbottom cuts the head off the big snake, or Lord of the Rings, when Aragorn cuts the head off the chief orc?
Oh, this is bad because I can't even hardly remember what I ate for lunch yesterday, much less a movie that I might have watched 15 years ago.
May or may not have been asleep.
Yeah. Oh. How about this? I don't like snakes.
Yes.
So let's go with the snake.
Yes. There's really no wrong answer there. They're both pretty epic. You've been here for how long now as store manager?
Store manager about to enter into my 4th year, I believe.
5 to 10 years from now, you see this location expanding. It's going to stay true to what it is. Other locations coming. What would be if you had a crystal ball and you could see things the way you'd want them to go 5 to 10 years out? What would that look like?
This is kind of our grassroots here, and we're a technical stream side fly shop, and so this is a destination area. There's not a high population here of people, and so this is who we are. It's we're going to stay true to our roots of being that store that if you want to know what's happening on the river right now, that's who you call. And so this is going to be the primary focus to stay here to maintain this establishment here, this location. But you never know what opportunities could present themselves. So right now we're just kind of keeping this one rolling, but you never know what could come along.
From what I know from Jimmy, who's one of the owners, I think his intention and heart is you are the local experts for what you do, and he is not a big box kind of person as far as some of the larger outfits, though with the success that you guys have had, that it obviously be an option. I think when you do that, you lose some of the things you just talked about, being the stream experts in the area, which honestly, if you're not an avid fisherman going out every week, you're gonna have some days where you get skunked every now and then, and some days where you're gonna just kill it on the water. But if you're coming out for a guided anything, or you're coming out because you're in town for the week to see your family, and you haven't been fly fishing and you want to go somewhere, you want to catch fish, and you want to catch big fish, and you want to have a good time. So having a place like this here in our region, we're an hour from pretty much anything within North Georgia. Having the acknowledgement of the 2018 Orvis Store of the Year, Fly Shop of the Year.
Yeah, Fly Shop of the Year.
That tells you the caliber of the operation here. While it is an unsuspecting building on the side of the highway leading into Helen. So
there's big things happening inside.
There's big things happening inside. Yeah.
The big picture, Jake, here is that everybody here has a very strong passion for the sport. Everybody's story is unique. They all come from different backgrounds of life, but we're all approachable.
Yeah.
And that we would never want to get away from those roots. Like you can approach us with any question or anything like that, and we're always more than glad to help out.
You'll guide somebody who's never held a fly rod in their hand.
That is the vast majority of our customers.
Yeah.
Is getting new people into the sport, and that was going to be my next thing. Fishermen tend to be conservationists of the environment here, the resource. And so, if we can get more people into the sport, teach them to appreciate it, then that's planting the seed for next, future generations to come, to ensure that it's there for them. So that's the big picture for us, is to bring acknowledgement to the resource, get people hooked just like we are, to enjoy it, and then pay it forward to them. So
yeah, that's awesome. How do people find out more about your operation here, social media, website, store hours, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so we're, website's unicoioutfitters.com.
Okay.
We're on major social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram. That's the main two we operate off of. All the hours and everything, contact information is plugged in there. You find on the website or the social media.
Okay.
We're, a lot of Google Maps, if you're just coming by the area, like, hey, where's it at? We're right on the main drag here, pretty easy to find.
Yep.
So, all those, a lot of different avenues to reach us, Google Business, things like that
Yep.
too.
So you mentioned in September you've got the 25th, is that right, 25th anniversary?
25th year
the
anniversary.
Store. Any other events that you do annually throughout the year?
Yes.
So if somebody's listening to this at 6 months down the road or whatever, they'll know some annual things that you guys have.
Yeah. So typically speaking, we have we try to do a seasonal kickoff. So for spring and fall, just an event here at the store. Kind of everybody gets together. We'll have kind of some new sales reps here with new products to demo and things like that. Our assistant manager, Wes, he heads up a fly tying night here at the store.
Okay.
Once a month. It's always, both of those deals can be found, both of those events can be found on our social media stuff.
Okay.
But free, open to the public, like, hey, come in, hang out. There's really no set schedule as to what we're going to tie, but everybody gets together and ties.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a social event. But if you want to learn how to tie a fly, there's probably somebody there that knows how to tie that fly. But there may be something that that they don't, that you could teach them.
Yeah.
So just kind of passing it around. And then a lot of people may not know this, but there is a fishing show, fly fishing show, the fly fishing show, which is held in Lawrenceville at the Civic Center there in February, first weekend of February. So that's a big event for us. And then, things come along the way, but, generally speaking, if we've got something going on, it can be found on our social media platforms. Or if you're a member of our newsletter list, you get it via email as well.
And you can get that. You can sign up for that on your website.
Yep,
Unicoi
go to the
Outfitters.
website, just plug your info in right there, and you're on the list.
Cool. All right, Jake, I appreciate it. We just moved this Easter weekend, actually, earlier this year. Unfortunately, it was the first time that I've grabbed my fly rod in a couple of years. But that happens sometimes when you have kids and you have, moving and a bunch of life stuff. So made me get a little itch being up here.
Well, if you don't have anywhere to go,
yeah,
we could always go right
absolutely.
now.
and you'll see behind us, we've got a pretty stagnant body of water, about 50, 100 yards down the water here is just absolutely gorgeous waterfall. I mean, everything is, you would never know it just looking at this.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of foliage this time of year, but right over this little knoll here, you can barely see the river right there. And then it runs down to Norm Mill's granary there, which is at the dam, which is a historic site there.
Yeah.
And then, makes the drop and picks up a lot of volume and a little bit choppier through there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is a little flat right here. This is just kind of a little slough here that's developed over the years. There's some nervous water, some moving water up above us here. And then, of course, you got the iconic dam down there that everybody stops and feeds the fish and everything. So that's a whole nother story there in itself, you know, that business. Really cool. So
cool. Well, we appreciate it. I need to find some time to get out fishing. Needs to cool off a little bit, but yeah, I've enjoyed it, Jake. Thanks for being here.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
This is the North Georgia Life Podcast. Embrace life where you live.